Hello and welcome back to the third rail. We have a new addition to the collection today. I just received this little German class 212 and I thought we should have a first look at it together. As usual with the new additions format, we'll cover a few basics and a bit of history to put the model in context. We'll then have a closer look, test it, do a full service and wrap up with a short run on the layout. If you like the sound of that, grab a cup or glass of your poison of choice, sit back and relax as we travel back to a time where models were still toys. This would be the point where I usually encourage everyone to hit the subscribe or like button if they enjoyed the video. And please don't forget to do it if this is the case. But I'd like to give a very special thanks to our sponsors. No, I've not gone commercial all of a sudden. Today's sponsors are the viewers listed on screen now who have been very generous and bought a super thanks over the last 12 months. I have been saving them up and invested the proceeds in the locomotive we'll be looking at today. Thank you so much for your support, it really means a lot to me. Now, on to our topic, starting with a model overview. This is a Märklin product, of course, model number 3147. It first appeared in the 1980 catalogue. That's the one with the prototype of the class 120 on the cover, the star of the show that year. We'll find our model on page 36. It was given an entire page. I am guessing this is an indication of the volumes Märklin was expecting to sell. This model is a simple livery change using the tooling of an existing model that can be found on the opposite page. It is of course the legendary 3072 in the program since 1966 with no other modification than its running number in 1969. That would have made it 14 years old in 1980. 3147 remained in the catalogue until 1991, but lived on in the form of the 3377, which used the same tooling and livery with a different running number, and was fitted with an electronic reversing unit. This model was sold until 1996. Okay, time for a few vital statistics. The model measures 14.1 centimeters buffer to buffer. The body is made of plastic and is paired to a zinc die-cast chassis. The model is fitted with an electromechanical reversing unit, controlling a large 3-pole flat collector motor located in the cab. Its power is transmitted to the front bogie with a set of articulated gears driving 2 axles fitted with 4 traction tires, a rarely used solution on Märklin Bobo models at the time. Looking at the front, we find triple headlights which are non-directional, so always on, and a relax coupling, and this applies to both ends of course. Pretty standard stuff apart from the transmission. Now, let's have a quick overview of the prototype for context. So, we already know that our model represents a Class 212 diesel hydraulic multipurpose locomotive of the Deutsche Bundesbahn. I am going to keep the overview very short today as I'd like to cover the details in a future video dedicated to this type of locomotives. The class belongs to a family of machines originally known as the V100. It was based on prototypes commissioned by the Deutsche Bundesbahn in the late 1950s and produced in several series until the mid-1960s. The initial series was the V100.10, designed to replace steam engines on branch lines. Over 350 units were manufactured between 1958 and 1963. This was followed by V100.20, a more powerful version for use on main lines, including a small batch of 15 locomotives fitted with additional equipment so they could be used on ramps as bank engines. The class was produced between 1962 and 1966, including the prototype. A total of 381 units were delivered to the Deutsche Bundesbahn. It is this series Märklin chose as an inspiration for their V100 tooling and our model. In 1968, all V100s received new running numbers compatible with new computer systems being introduced at the time. The V100.10 were renumbered to 211, the V120 to 212, and the bank engines to 213. Our prototype was delivered to the Deutsche Bundesbahn by Deutz in Cologne in 1965. It entered service in a red livery and received running number V100 2349. In 1968, its running number was changed to 212349-5. In 1977, its livery was updated to the blue-beige color scheme introduced by the Deutsche Bundesbahn in 1974. As was common at the time, this was done as part of the maintenance cycle. In 1994, with the privatization of the Bundesbahn, ownership was transferred to the Deutsche Bahn AG, where it was allocated to the freight activity. The same year, it was repainted in the standard color scheme of the Deutsche Bahn AG, a traffic red livery. In 1999, the locomotive was then transferred to DB Cargo, then on to Rallion when the company was set up in 2003. It was then almost immediately withdrawn in July 2004 and dismantled shortly after. The Deutsche Bahn AG and its subsidiaries withdrew Class 211 by 1994 and a Class 212 by 2004. But this wasn't the end of the road for many units, as some were transferred to preservation, and large numbers were sold on to other logistics or infrastructure companies, and plenty of them are still going strong today. The frame and bogies of withdrawn V100s were also used as a base for new locomotives by Alstom and Vossloh. Okay, this completes the prototype overview. You'll find credits and links to the material and sources used to produce this video in the description down below as usual. Now let's have a look at my, or shall I say your, 3147. And here it is. I bought this from a shop in Germany I use from time to time. We have a lovely 1980s box that is almost immaculate, with very minimal scratches. Very nice. Let's open the box. We have a set of instructions, still in the simple format used since the 1970s. Let's take the model out. I have wrapped it in silk paper to protect it from the styrofoam. This packaging can deteriorate and start to fuse with the paint over time. That depends on the storage conditions. No such problem here, but better be on the safe side. It's a lovely model. Let me put it on a presentation rail and we'll have a closer look. Well, it's not too bad. Full disclosure, I touched up a couple of spots on the chassis where the ivory paint had come off. I hadn't looked close enough at the pictures before buying, and some scratches simply couldn't be seen given the angles used. There's nothing nefarious at play here, it's just the angle used for all locomotives by the shop, so I couldn't see it. I used some RAL 1014 paint I had on hand for this, which happens to be the standard shade of ivory used in the 1974 Bundesbahn color scheme. Most of the defects were located on the handlebars at both ends, which is a very common occurrence on this model with this livery, and also on the smaller V60, which has the same type of bars on each side. They can easily get caught on something or simply knocked. And I also touched up the stairs where the paint had rubbed off due to handling. Otherwise, the body is in excellent shape. This is how it came. I didn't dust anything off. All the paint is intact. The ivory touches have held up nicely. Around the grille, the rather crude application of the ivory on the blue paint is not a defect, or the result of some tinkering by a previous owner. This is how the models actually left the factory. We were still in the early days of the shift from toy to model, so things were still rather crude. The roof is in excellent shape, not a blemish in sight, and the screw still has most of its silver paint. Excellent! Looking at the chassis, it all looks great. There's nothing to report. The wheels are clean. Nothing is broken or missing. Okay, not too bad, I'd say. Let's see if this thing behaves as good as it looks. Let's move to the bench. And there we are. So we'll start with the usual function test. Uh-oh, we have a squeaker. Classic vote for a classic model. But we are moving, and we can change direction. The lights are working, going forwards and backwards too. So the model works. I need to fix the squeaking. The wheels feel free. The tires might need changing. They look a bit shiny to me. We'll see. But nothing serious in any case. I just need to service the model. I think someone asked for a video about maintenance on this tooling a while back, so I will go slowly and into a bit more details than usual today. Alright, first thing first, opening the model. This body shell is held to the chassis by a single screw located on the cab roof. The silver paint used by Märklin is always quite fragile, so to avoid damaging it, I have covered the end of my flathead screwdriver with a bit of tape. Once the screw is loosened, the body simply lifts off. This reveals the chassis. Technically, we have the usual components with a large flat collector motor with its copper and graphite brushes, a reversing unit, and a pair of bulbs. Pretty standard stuff. What is unusual is the position of the motor and the way its power is transmitted to the driving bogie. On Bobo locomotives, you would normally expect a bogie where motor and driving wheels form a single assembly that pivots with the track. The space available in this model wouldn't have allowed this setup, so Märklin had to be creative. The motor was placed in the center of the chassis and lowered to fit inside the cab. The power is transmitted to a gear attached to the chassis above the front bogie. We then have a universal joint contraption that transfers the power to a gear attached to the bogie. This is the black metal plate we see now. A couple of pins on each end are inserted in holes on the gears that are sized to allow some movement. The plate is floating and will move with the bogie. It's quite clever. The motor block itself is also different. For the large flat collector motor to fit in the cab, it needed to be lowered into the chassis. This would have obstructed access to the motor cover, so a removable assembly was designed. See, we can only access one of the motor screws. The bottom one is hidden by the chassis. To service the motor, the entire setup needs to come apart, which involves a few more steps than usual. First, the bogie needs to come off. It is held in place by a single screw, and Märklin didn't attach the coupling to the bogie in this case, so it is easier than usual to remove. Okay. We can now see the pair of holes in the gear for the joint. Let me take it out too now. There we go. We can see the pins on both ends. Everything is covered in grease though, and this really shouldn't be like that. But we'll put this on the side for now. Now the motor assembly needs to come off. It is held to the chassis by two screws. The first is located under the chassis in the center, so it's not to be confused with the body screw. Alright, and the other one is on the upper side towards the light bulb. See, this one is a bit longer than the other one. I'll take the brushes out before going any further. They still have plenty of life in them. And I can lift the motor block, and I now have access to both motor cover screws. They have to come off. I'll gently remove the C-clip holding the armature in alignment with the tip of my tweezers. And I can now lift and tilt the entire motor assembly. Then separate the windings and cover plate from the motor block. Hold this very gently to avoid breaking any solder joint. There we go. The inside of the cover plate is a bit dirty, but it's not in a bad shape. I've seen much worse. There is also a bit of dried oil on the side of the magnet core, which I'll need to remove. Let's check the motor. The armature doesn't want to come off. There we are. We have more congealed grease in various places, but things are moving freely. The armature is in good shape. There are barely any graphite residues between the collectors. So I don't think this model was used much. It looks like it is more a drawer queen that lay idle for a very long time. Alright, time for some cleaning. I'll use some isopropyl alcohol to remove the dry residues on the gears here. There is no paint to worry about, so I can be aggressive here. Quick wipe of the collector, and that side of the motor is done. Let's take care of the bogie. So I'll start by taking the fake bogie off so I can access the tires. It is simply clipped on and can be pulled off. There we go. Now the tires. This one can move around the wheel, so it will need to come off. And that is the same for all the others, so they all need changing. I am going to use WD-40 to clean the gears here, as we have painted wheels. I'll spare you that bit. You've seen me do this before, so one moment please. And there we are. The gears are clean and free moving. During the cleaning, I disrupted some residue that got stuck in a few teeth on the gears, so it took me a good 15 minutes to find what was sticking and remove it. I still need to clean the joint plate. There we go. Okay, it's time for new tires. This model needs 7154 tires. That's the smallest standard size Märklin makes. And we can clip the fake bogie back on. Now I clean the inside of the motor cover and remove dried grease on the magnet core. And it is time for reassembly. We can finally take care of the squeaking now. This is caused by a lack of lubrication on the motor armature ends. So I'll apply grease to both ends of the motor armature. A drop of oil would work too, of course, and you would have to fill the oil reservoirs on both sides of the motor block for flat collector motors like this one. With grease, this bit is not necessary. Then I'll insert the armature in the motor block, reattach the windings and cover plate, and reinsert the motor assembly in the chassis, reinstall the screws. The long one goes at the top and the short one under the chassis. Then I can refit the bogie. This bit is a bit tricky. The joint needs to be reinserted in the first gear and the other end in the second gear, which is easier said than done, as this needs to happen at the same time as the bogie is pushed in position. This will take a few tries, no doubt, but everything should go back in with a bit of patience. And then the bogie can be screwed down. See? It pivots. And the gear on the bogie can turn the motor. Cool. I'll fit the C-clip back on. Here I always push the opposite side of the armature in to make sure the groove for the C-clip is exposed on the other side. The clip should then easily slide halfway in place and only require the tiniest amount of pressure to lock in. If you have to apply force, then something is not in the right place and the C-clip is more than likely to fly off, never to be seen again. Okay, now the brushes. And it is time for a quick check. Cool, we are moving and the lights turn on. All we need now is a bit of oil. That's the usual drop on the axle bearings and optionally on the gears to reduce running noise. And the body can now come back on. And that's it, we are done. Time for a run-in. 10 minutes in both directions. 1 moment, please. And we are back. Look at that. We are crawling with the throttle barely above 0. Very nice. I have prepared a bit of rolling stock so we can watch a train to finish the video. I used the suggestion made in the 1980 catalogue as inspiration for the composition. So, let's go and get coupled. There we are. And we're off. Now look at this gorgeous bit of nostalgia on the move. This tooling is extremely reliable, like almost everything else Märklin did at the time. Perhaps even more so because these can run for what seems an eternity before they need a major service. So much so that I will concede I didn't really understand why someone would request a dedicated video on the maintenance. It had been such a long time since I last looked inside one of these that I had completely forgotten how different they are from other models technically. I experienced a bit of an aha moment when I first lifted the body. Thanks to whoever suggested this topic. See, I read your comments, so don't hesitate to leave one. This new addition is a good one, I think. I hope you'll agree with me that your donations were well invested. Thanks so much again for your support. Right, this video is getting a bit long, so I will leave things here for today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you know what to do. Until next time, bye for now.